This isn't about loving or hating a fighter jet. It's about whether Canada wants to build or simply buy. Whether it wants jobs that exist on paper or industries that exist on the ground. Because once again, Canada is being asked to trust promises. And the last time it did that, the arrow fell from the sky. They told Canada it was about security. They said it was about alliances. They promised cutting-edge technology, prestige, and protection. But what they didn't talk about were the jobs that never came, the factories that were never built, and the mistake Canada may be repeating again. Because this story doesn't begin with the F-35. It begins with a ghost. A white delta-winged interceptor that once terrified the Soviet Union, before it was killed by its own country. The Avro Arrow. And today, nearly 70 years later, Canada is standing at the same crossroads, choosing between industrial sovereignty and foreign dependency, between 10,000 Rio Gripen jobs and empty F-35 promises. So the question is no longer which jet is better. The question is far more dangerous. Has Canada learned anything since the Avro Arrow? Every few decades, Canada faces the same decision. Build something at home or buy it from abroad. Every time, the argument sounds the same. And every time, the consequences are irreversible. Because once you shut down an aerospace industry, you don't just lose factories. You lose engineers. You lose design culture. You lose the ability to decide your own future. And that's exactly what happened in 1959. The Avro CF-105 Arrow was not just an aircraft. It was a declaration. At a time when most nations were buying American or British designs, Canada built one of the most advanced interceptors on Earth. It could fly faster than Mach 2, climb higher than anything in the sky, and defend North America against Soviet bombers before missiles ever launched. The United States was impressed. The Soviets were alarmed, but Canada was afraid. Afraid of cost overruns, afraid of independence, afraid of saying no to Washington. So on a cold day in March 1959, the Canadian government did the unthinkable. They cancelled the Arrow, ordered all prototypes destroyed, and erased an entire aerospace ecosystem overnight. 14,000 skilled workers lost their jobs immediately. Another 25,000 were affected indirectly. Many of those engineers went south, to NASA, to Boeing, to Lockheed. They helped put a man on the moon. Fast forward to the 21st century. The Arrow is gone, but the argument is back. Canada needs a new fighter jet. And once again, the choice is not just about performance, it's about who controls the work. On one side, a European fighter with full industrial participation, local assembly, technology transfer, guaranteed jobs. On the other, American stealth jet, built elsewhere, controlled elsewhere, and owned by a system Canada doesn't command. The F-35, just not under a Canadian flag. Supporters of the F-35 made bold claims. They said Canada would gain access to a global supply chain, that Canadian companies would compete for contracts, that billions in economic benefits would flow north. But there was a catch, one that was buried in the fine print. Nothing was guaranteed. No mandatory job offsets. No final assembly line. No sovereign control over upgrades or software. Canada wasn't buying a jet. Canada was buying permission to participate. And permission can be revoked. Let's talk about real numbers. Saab's Gripen proposal included final assembly in Canada, Canadian-owned maintenance facilities, domestic control over upgrades, export participation, thousands of skilled manufacturing jobs. Independent estimates placed the number at up to 10,000 long-term jobs across the country. Not temporary, not theoretical, real aerospace jobs. By contrast, The F-35 offered no such guarantees. Canadian firms could bid for work, but Lockheed Martin decides who wins. Washington controls the software, and the US can block exports, upgrades, or even parts access. That's not partnership. That's dependency. F-35 supporters often end the debate with one word: stealth. But stealth is not magic. Stealth works best on day one of a war, before enemy radars adapt, before infrared tracking improves, before sensor fusion catches up. Modern air combat is no longer about a single aircraft. It's about networks, dispersed bases, electronic warfare, and cost per sortie. And here's the uncomfortable truth: Canada does not fight wars alone. It defends airspace, it patrols the Arctic, it responds to NORAD alerts. For those missions, availability matters more than invisibility. A jet that's grounded is not stealthy. Nowhere is this clearer than the Arctic. Canada's north is vast, remote, and brutal. Runways are short. Weather is unforgiving. Logistics are limited. The Gripen was designed for exactly this environment. Short takeoff, road base operations, minimal ground crew, rapid turnaround, cold weather optimized. The F-35, it requires pristine runways, specialized maintenance, climate-controlled hangars, and complex supply chains. Ask yourself this: in a real Arctic crisis, which aircraft gets airborne first? Canada's industrial sovereignty rarely makes headlines. The F-35 is not fully owned by any country. Even the aircraft's mission data files, the digital brain that tells it how to fight, are controlled by the United States. If Washington says no, Canada waits. If software updates are delayed, Canada adapts. If political priorities change, Canada complies. This is not hypothetical. Export permissions, operational limitations, upgrade schedules, all controlled elsewhere. The Arrow was cancelled partly because Canada feared standing alone. Today, Canada risks standing dependent. History doesn't repeat. I.E. Rhymes, in 1959, they said missiles made interceptors obsolete. They were wrong. They say only stealth matters. They may be wrong again. Because wars are not won by brochures. They're won by availability, by sustainability, by industrial depth, and by nations that can adapt without asking permission. No Canadian fighter decision exists in a vacuum. The US is Canada's largest trading partner, its closest military ally, and its most powerful neighbor. Buying American equipment has political value, but it also comes at a cost. When defense policy becomes foreign policy insurance, industrial logic disappears. The Arrow was sacrificed to appease alliances. The F-35 risks doing the same. So let's ask it. If the F-35 is such a good deal, why does it need political pressure to win? Why do countries demand industrial offsets when buying anything else, but are told to accept uncertainty here? Why is local assembly unrealistic, only when the supplier is American? Gripen is not just a jet. It's a philosophy. Smaller air forces, budget realism, dispersed operations, domestic control. Sweden designed Gripen knowing it might fight alone. Canada may never fight alone, but it must be able to operate independently. Gripen offered that option, and with it, something Canada hasn't had since the Arrow, a chance to rebuild aerospace sovereignty. Once the decision is made, there is no rewind. Factories won't be built later. Jobs won't magically appear. Control won't be renegotiated. Just like 1959. The Arrow didn't die because it failed. It died because Canada chose convenience over capability.